Alex held her breath as her father's casket was lowered into the ground. Her world was shattered, again. Looking over to Haley, she wondered what would happen to the three of them. After all, Haley was only 14. She reached over and grabbed Lauren's hand in her own, then held on to Haley's. The three of them stood and watched as their father's casket sank lower into the red dirt at the church's cemetery in the plot next to their mother's. Lauren's eyes closed for just a second until her sister dropped her hand and walked over to place a white rose into the hole. It landed softly on the casket. Lauren turned and nodded to her, then she followed. As she dropped her rose, she stood and said her goodbyes to the man who had done his best to raise 3 girls alone and make them happy. When she turned, Haley walked up and stood next to the hole. Alex couldn't stand it anymore. She turned and walked quickly towards a group of trees. Even though it was spring, the heat was almost too much for her to bear. Here in the shade, she could feel the breeze, and she felt like she could finally breathe. Leaning against the trunk of a large oak tree, she closed her eyes and focused on taking slow breaths. She had been staying at Cheryl Lynn's house the night that Lauren had found their father on the floor of his room. She should have stayed home that weekend. If only she had stayed. "Hey." She looked up into Grant's deep blue eyes. He looked pretty much the same as he always had, but his sandy hair was a little longer and he had gotten new glasses. The wire rims suited his face a little better. He had a slight case of acne on his round face, but his clothes were still spotless. "Hey." She continued to lean against the tree, crossing her arms over her chest. She started to feel cold and wished for the warmth of the sun again. "I'm sorry about your dad." He looked down at his shiny boots and kicked a pebble. Grant's father and her father had been best friends since childhood. Even their mothers had been friends, since they had all grown up in the small town. "I sure hope you don't sell your ranch or anything." Her shoulders came off the tree and she looked at him. "Why would we?" She frowned. He looked up from his boot and stared at her. "I don't know, I just overheard my pa talking about some money problems your pa had, and how Lauren wasn't old enough to take care of you and your sister and run a ranch at the same time." He raised and dropped his shoulders. "She's not all by herself. She has Haley and me." She took a step closer to him. "Well, I hope you're right. I'm leaving at the end of this year. I was accepted into Harvard." He smiled real big. Her chin dropped and she said, "We're only 17. "I know. I finished all my credits for high school over the summer, and my dad and I sent in applications. Can you believe it?" He stuck his hands into his pant pockets. "You're only 17, she repeated. "You gonna miss me?" It came out as a whisper, and Alex didn't hear it. Her mind was stuck on the fact that she was 17, and now both her parents were gone, and she was facing the possibility of losing the only home she had ever known. Then she looked over her shoulder and frowned a little. She saw that Grant's father and Mr. Graham, her father's other best friend, were talking to Lauren next to their truck. Walking away without saying goodbye, she rushed over to where Haley stood next to her friends and grabbed her hand. "We need to go." Haley nodded and followed her. They walked up to their sister together. "We're ready to go home." Alex glared at Mr. Graham and Mr. Holton, who quickly turned their eyes to the ground. Chase, Mr. Graham's son, was standing next to him. He smiled slightly and nodded his head, then the girls left. The drive home was quiet. Alex wanted to ask her sister what her plans were, but knew it wasn't the right time. Lauren was a week shy of her 19th birthday. She was old enough to legally take care of Alex and Haley, that much she knew. She didn't know anything about the money problems their father was having, or even if the ranch had been left to Lauren. Lauren would know all that. After all, for the last few years, Lauren had been helping their father out with the big place. When the truck turned into their long driveway, Alex looked at their 3-story house in the distance. The once freshly painted white building could stand a new coat. The roof had just been replaced a few years back. Alex knew the old place had its problems, but she wouldn't have traded it for any other house in the county.